and welcome to our series, The Master Builder. Today I have built something kind of fun. Let me see if I can show you. I made a boat just using some recycled materials from around the house. And you could do the same thing. You can just pull out your recycling bin and see what you've got, and maybe you can build a boat or a car or just something fun or something pretty or a vase for flowers or who knows. But anyway, this is what I've made, and let me pull it in and I'll show you some more. All right, here we go. So I just used a juice bottle and I made a paper sail, and I used straws for the mast, and then I tied a ribbon to it so I wouldn't lose my boat when it's on the lake. Anyway, I hope you have fun building some things. And this week I wanted to tell you about how God is the one and only. So I want you to listen to this teaching, and I hope it blesses your heart. And we'll return and we'll memorize our memory verse together. All right, see you in a minute.
The Master Builder, God's hand at work.
Have you ever cared for a plant? I have a plant back here. Hold on just a second. To get a plant to live, it has to be watered. And for them to grow and to be beautiful, wonderful things that you want to put in your house or maybe have around your yard, but they have to have water. And you see, that leads us to today's big God story. You see, just like that plant, the people of Israel had leaders that were supposed to help them grow. And it was supposed to help them worship God in ways that God had placed before them, the rules and ways that they could honor God. And it just wasn't happening. In our story about a king, his name was King Ahab. And he had a wife, and her name was Jezebel. Can you go, boo? These guys were not good people. And in fact, they had led the people of Israel to worship false gods, gods that weren't real. And they had abandoned the one and only God to worship Baal, not only for themselves, but leading the people of Israel to do the same. And you see, God had seen this, and he knew that it was wrong, and he knew that worshiping false gods were going to hurt the people of Israel. So he sent a drought, and that's a big word to say it hadn't rained, for 3 years exactly. And Elijah wanted the people to know that God was in control, and he was the one and only God. So in the 3rd year of the drought, remember, no rain, God sent Elijah to the king and said, listen, you're not worshiping God. In fact, you're leading the people to worship false gods. So we're gonna have a test or a contest, if you would. And I'm gonna worship my God, the one and only God. And you have your prophets worship that false god, Baal, that not real God. And whichever God comes down and burns up the altar and the water and the sacrifice that we've made, that's the real God. This is epic stuff. I mean, you've got hundreds of prophets of Baal, right? Wanting to prove that Baal is a real God. He's really not. And then you have Elijah, one man, saying, I serve the true God, the one and only God. So they go up this mountain, Mount Carmel, and he says, you know what, you go first. And so the prophets of Baal, they build an altar, and they dance and they sing, and they're calling on Baal to come and to burn up the altar. He doesn't do it. In fact, it's hours and hours of them. And at one point, Elijah's even making fun of them a little bit, because Elijah knows that there's only one true God. And that's the God of Israel. That's the God that he served. And so as a long time passed, Elijah, he did something really cool, because he wanted the people to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the one true God was going to do something amazing that day. So he took the altar and he built it up the way that he knew how. And then he had them dump water on it. And not just one bucket or 2 buckets. He dumped 12 buckets of water. Not only was this altar soaking wet, I mean, imagine trying to throw a match into a lake and light it on fire. It's just not going to happen. That's what this looked like. And Elijah comes to the altar and he prays. And he says, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, so these people will know that, Lord, you are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. And in that moment, as things were quiet, the prophets of Baal, I can just see them. They were waiting, listening, watching to see if God was going to answer Elijah. And as everybody stood on Mount Carmel, the fire of God came from heaven, and it came down and it burned up that entire altar. All the wood was gone, all the stones that they had built it on was gone, and even the water had been licked dry from the land. In that moment, God had proven to the people that Baal was a false god. He wasn't real, but that he was the one and only God of Israel. And he wanted them to turn their hearts back to him. And so today I want you to remember there's going to be a lot of things in life that try to distract us from what God wants for us, that are going to try to take us away from even worshiping him. How many times have you gotten home from school, then you had soccer practice, and you had to do homework, and it's 8 o'clock at night, and you're like, I haven't read my Bible today. If we're not paying attention, we can allow simple distractions that are not bad, but if we allow them to take us away from God, we can find ourselves moving further and further away from him. So maybe you need to take time today to remember who you serve, the one and only God.
Okay, kids, I hope that blessed your heart. And this week, I just want you to think about what God spoke to you. And I hope you have fun building something. Okay, and here is our memory verse for this week. I'll see you next Sunday for episode 3. Bye.